economic decline of House Ricci's. 1019 AG. Elrud IX marries Barbara Mutelli. 1020 AG. Birth of Eliot Corino, son of Elrud IX and Barbara Mutelli. 1021 AG. Elrud IX murders Eliot. Barbara Mutelli goes insane. Elrud repeatedly impregnates her, has the embryos removed from Barbara, and places them in storage for later dynastic emergencies. 1024 AG. Birth of Yvette Hagal. 1026 AG. Death of Barbara Mutelli. 1036 AG. Elrud IX marries Yvette Hagal. 1050 AG. Birth of Alexandra Acas. 1070 AG. Birth of Edwina, daughter of Elrud IX and Yvette Hagal. Sumar 1,70,000. Akrej, a group of Bene Gesserit sisters working on the Missionaria Protectiva on Arrakis, disappear. Reverend Mother Ramallo among them. 1071 AG. Birth of Habla. 1075 AG. Death of Yvette Hagal. Birth of Thufir Hawat. 1079 AG. Elrud IX marries Alexandra Acas. 1082 AG. Birth of Wellington Yue. 103. 1089 AG. Birth of Paulus Atreides. 1090 AG. Marriage of Ilben Richese and Edwina Corino. 1092 AG. Birth of Fafnir Corino, son of Elrud IX and Alexandra Acas. Birth of Juana Marcus. 103. 1095 AG. Birth of Helena Richese, daughter of Ilben and Edwina. 1098 AG. Alexandra Acas disappears. 1000 AG. Elrud IX marries Habla. 1,11 October. Birth of Vladimir Harkonnen. 1011 AG. House Richese is ousted from its feudal right of governing Arrakis. Baron Dmitri Harkonnen is made Siridar governor of Arrakis, holding the planet in quasi-fief under a Chom Company contract to mine melange. Dmitri Harkonnen builds orgies on Arrakis. 1012 AG. Wellington Yue graduates at the Suk School. 1014 AG. House Richese regains some of its lost prestige due to a marriage between Paulus Atreides and Helena Richese. 1018 AG. Birth of Hasimir Fenring, the almost successful end product of the Kwisatz Haderach project. After 19 years of childless marriage, Elrud IX has one of the frozen embryos from Barbara Mutelli implanted in Habla. 1019 AG. Habla gives birth to Shaddam, son of Elrud IX and Barbara Mutelli. 1023 AG. Death of Edwina Corino. Sumar 130 AG. Birth of the bastard son of Elrod and his concubine Shando Balut. The child is named Tyros Refa and is adopted by House Taligari. 1032 AG. Birth of Glossu Rabban, first son of Abolord Harkonnen. 1036 AG. Birth of Sitair Pilru and Demur Pilru. 1038 AG. Marriage of Dominic Vernius and Shando Balut. Hasimir and Shaddam kill Fafnir Corino, the crown prince. 10,140 AG, the Akazi revolt. Dominic Vernius and Paulus Atreides fight on Elrond the Ninth's side against the rebels. The rebellion is suppressed. Birth of Leto Atreides, son of Paulus Atreides and Helena Richese. Approximate birth of Stilgar, 10,145 AG. Birth of Gurney Halleck, 10,146 AG. Birth of Duncan, Idaho. Death of Dimitri Harkonnen. His son Abelard takes the Siridar governorship of Arrakis, 10,149 AG. Birth of Beth Halleck, 10,153 AG. Vladimir Harkonnen replaces Abelard, his half-brother, as governor of Arrakis. Abelard retires to Lankivale. Elrond the Ninth appoints Pardo Kynes planetologist of Arrakis. After saving Stilgar, he leads the Freemen to start to transform Arrakis into a paradise world. Glossu Rabban kills Duncan, Idaho's parents. Shaddam Corrino and Hasimir Fenring poison Elrond the Ninth with a slow-acting poison. Leto Atreides departs from Caladan to study Onyx. Project Amal, 10,154 AG. According to a secret pact with Elrond the Ninth, the Bene Tleilax takes over control of Ix. Tleilaxu Master Hidar Fen Ajidika launches the top-secret Project Amal on Ix to develop the method for synthesizing the spice melange. Dominic Vernius and Shando become renegades after the Suboid Revolt. Leto Atreides, Romber Vernius, and Kylia Vernius escape to Caladan. The Freemen begin terraforming Arrakis with Pardo Kynes' guidance. Duncan, Idaho becomes a servant of House Atreides. Dimur Pilru becomes a navigator. Hasimir Fenring kills Grera Carey. Birth of Jessica, daughter of Gaius Helen Moyam and Vladimir Harkonnen, as a subject of the Kwisatz Haderach project. Birth of Liet Kynes, son of Pardo Kynes, 10,155 AG. An Imenbrek is recruited from Dimitri by the Harkonnens, 10,156 AG. Death of Paulus Atreides. Leto Atreides becomes Duke of House Atreides. Bullfighting on Caladan is ended. Death of Elrond the Ninth. Tenu Chobin of Richese invents the No Field, but shares his invention only with Vladimir Harkonnen. A no globe is built on Giedi Prime. Chobin is killed by Mentat. Peter de Vries. Shando Vernius is killed by the Sardaukar. Vladimir Harkonnen's unsuccessful effort to cause warfare between House Atreides and the Bene Tleilax. Shaddam Corrino IV becomes emperor. He marries Anirul Sado Tonkin. Hasimir Fenring marries Margot Rashino Zea. Shaddam places him on Arrakis. Dominic Vernius and his followers go into hiding on Arrakis. C. 10,158 AG. Dominic Vernius attacks the Tleilaxu ruling Ix. The Emperor's Sardaukar deflect the attack. After the conquest of Ix, the products of Ixian technology disappear from the Imperium's markets. This leads to the temporary rise of Richese's economy. 10,160 AG. Tleilaxu face dancer Seitel is born. 10,161 AG. The Tleilaxu restart Ixian production. As Ixian products once more become available on the galactic market, Richese's economy declines. 10,163 AG. Appropriations for Sardaukar training begin going down for 30 years. 10,164 AG. Birth of Irulan Corino, daughter of Shaddam IV and Anirul Sado Tonkin. Birth of Chalice Corino, daughter of Shaddam IV and Anirul Sado Tonkin. 10,166 AG. Birth of Wensisha Corino, daughter of Shaddam IV and Anirul Sado Tonkin. House Mauritani of Grumman starts the War of Assassins against House Ikaz. Duncan, Idaho starts training on Ginas to become a swordmaster. Leto Atreides makes Kylea Vernius his concubine. Harkonnen's scouts poison the villagers of Bilar camp on Arrakis. Death of Jostin. 10,168 AG. Birth of Victor Atreides, son of Leto Atreides and Kylea Vernius. Jessica graduates from the Bene Gesserit Mother School on Wallach 9 under Mohiam, tested by her with a Gom Jabbar and proven as human. 10,170 AG. Gurney Halleck is enslaved by Harkonnens. 10,171 AG. Leto Atreides gains popularity in the Landsraad by trying to solve the Mauritani-Akaz conflict. The Bene Gesserit presents Jessica to Leto with the secret aim that she would conceive a girl child from him. This girl should give birth to the Kwisatz Haderach. 10,173 AG. Glossu Rabban kills Gurney Halleck's parents. Disguised as a Buddhist-Islamic monk, Gaius Helen Mohiam gives a potency-strengthening drug to Abulurd Harkonnen and his wife so that they can have another boy child. This boy should father the Kwisatz Haderach. Gurney Halleck escapes from slavery. 10,174 AG. Birth of Abulurd Harkonnen's second son, Feyd-Rautha, in October. Abulurd denounces the name Harkonnen. In revenge, Vladimir Harkonnen kidnaps Feyd-Rautha and adopts both sons of Abulurd. Duncan, Idaho is declared swordmaster. Hasimir Fenring's Sardaukar destroy Dominic Vernius and his base. Gurney Halleck joins House Atreides. Grumman attacks Ginas. Kylea Vernius tries to kill Leto Atreides because he would not marry her due to political reasons. The unsuccessful attempt causes Victor Atreides' death and Romber Vernius' serious injury. Kylea kills Kiara and commits suicide. Swain Gore goes into exile with the sisters in isolation. Glossu Rabban kills Abulurd Harkonnen. Dr. Wellington Yue arrives to Caladan to cyborg the maimed Rombur Vernius. Pardo Kynes dies. Leet Kynes takes over his work. Birth of Chani Kynes, daughter of Liet Kynes and Farula. Hidar Fen Ajidica, master researcher of Project Amal, plans to build his own empire in secret based on the synthetic spice. He sends hundreds of face dancers beyond the borders of the Imperium in preparation. Great Spice War. 10,175 AG. Dr. Wellington Yue makes Rombur Vernius a cyborg. Death of Truthsayer Lobia. Gaius Helen Mohiam becomes Shaddam's new Truthsayer, testing the newest version of Amal, named Ajidamal. Hidarfen Ajidica finds that it has all the good properties of melange. Possessing the know-how of Ajidamal production, Agidica prepares his escape from Ix. To ensure his monopoly based on synthetic spice, Shaddam IV starts the Great Spice War with the secret aim of emptying the spice hoards of the Imperium and destroying the natural spice source, Arrakis. 14 million are killed on the planet of Zanavar in the first attack of the Great Spice War, including Docent Glax Othin and Charence. Shaddam IV executes Tyros Refa. Omnius encounters a human guild highliner navigated by Dimur Pilru outside of the known space of the Imperium, but does not manage to capture it before it returns to known space. Death of Dimur Pilru, death of Sitair Pilru. Sister Christane kills Miral Alakem. Leto Atreides' army liberates Ix from the Tleilaxu rule. Hidar Fen Agidica dies due to the side effects of Agidamal. The failure of Project Amal ends the Emperor's Great Spice War. Hasimir Fenring kills Sister Christane. House Vernius is re-established, with Rombur as ruler of Ix. Wolfram Moritani is born. Bronzo Vernius is born. Birth of Paul Atreides. The Kwisatz Haderach achieved one generation early on Kaitine to Duke Leto Atreides and the Lady Jessica, who disobeys the Sisterhood's command to produce a daughter which will be mother to the Kwisatz Haderach. The baby Paul is kidnapped by Peter de Vries. Anirul Corino is killed by Peter de Vries. Gaius Helen Mohiam kills Peter de Vries and returns Paul to Jessica and Leto. Vladimir Harkonnen orders a Gola of de Vries from the Bene Lilacs to continue to serve him. Pattairatu Nutri Enbatu Undre Eji, birth of Caliph, son of Jeff. Pattairatu Nutri Enbati Irendu Eji, death of Wencisia Mutelli. Pattairatu Nutri Enbatu Mundri Eji, birth of Orlop, son of Jamis. Pattairatu Nutri Enbatu Aindu Eji, Jessica Atreides meets Yue. Pattairatu Nutri Enbatu Aru Eji, the Harkonnens murder Wana Marcus, wife of Yue. War of Assassins of 10,187 Anno Gallicus. Pattairatu Nutri Enbatu Yeru Eji, Leto Atreides' weapons masters train a small Sardaukar-level force. This makes the Emperor feel threatened. House Moritani visits Ekaz. Wolfram Moritani contracts an illness and disorder that causes him to physically waste away. The only cure for the ailment is a soid poi, which is only found on Ekaz. When Wolfram dies from the disorder, his grieving father, Hundro, vows revenge on the enemy house by assassinating Aermund and Ileska Ekaz. Duke Prad Vidal of Ilaka launches an attack using blades from the potted plants at the wedding of Leto Atreides and Elesa Ekaz. They are defended by Rivi Denari, who sacrifices himself in Whitmore blood. Armand loses an arm, and Elisa bleeds to death. Moments after this tragedy, a holographic message of Viscount Hundro Moritani rings throughout the hall, claiming responsibility, and thus starting the War of Assassins of 10,187 AG. House Atreides Alice with House Ekaz, and House Moritani with House Harkonnen. Leto I and Duncan Idaho assassinate Upstrat Duke Prad Vidal. Lady Helena Atreides, the sisters in isolation, and Swain Gore are killed by the Moritanis. House Moritani is decimated and destroyed in the Battle of Grumman. Pattairatu Nutri Enbatu Ittu Eji. Lady Jessica Atreides and her son Paul Atreides visit Ix so Paul can be dropped off for exchange study in the underground city of Verney. Guildcaster Stokia and 3 other Bene Gesserit sisters put Tessia Vernius into a deep coma for her disobedience to the sisterhood. Romber Vernius reveals to his adopted son, Bronso Vernius of Ix, that he is actually Bronso's uncle, and that long-dead Tyros Refa is actually Bronso's father. Bronzo decides to run away from Ix. Paul accompanies him. They stow away a guild highliner and join a jongleur face dancer performing group with their first stop on Balut, led by Gurney Halleck and Duncan Idaho, and with assistance from the guild. The duo are found on Chusak and joined by their respective parents. In the Hall of Shards, Paul foils an assassination attempt on the governor of Balut. During the secondary attack, Romber realizes the attempt is only half over and gives his life to protect others. Bronzo casts House Atreides out of his life as he is made embittered by what he thinks is Romber's over-concern for Paul. Romber's last words are, "Is Paul safe? Patayrat nutrienbat unbad yeji." Birth of Lichna, daughter of Othame and Duri. Patayrat nutr tonur yeji. Shaddam Corrino IV celebrates 10 millennia of House Corrino rule on Otorio, inviting the nobles of the houses major. Jackson Aru starts a rebellion against Shaddam, committing various acts of sabotage. The Bene Gesserit recalls the Lady Jessica from Caladan to Wallach the Nine to extract Lithia's secrets. Lithia dies, and Jessica is sent to be the concubine of Viscount Toole on Elegy. With the help of the Viscount, Jessica is able to go to Caladan to warn Paul to be on his guard. Zora is sent to Caladan to become the concubine of the Duke Leto. Leto travels to Kaitine, and before a duel with Lord Atik, the Lord is poisoned. Paul becomes acting Duke. He also attempts to get married, but soon after decides to go HM. Leto decides he will take another path to get Shaddam's favor by infiltrating Jackson Aru's rebellion and exposing it from within. He sends Gurney Halleck to Kaitan with a message for Shaddam and joins Aru, who continues to commit acts of sabotage against Shaddam. However, Gurney is intercepted by the Harkonnens. The Baron, Vladimir Harkonnen, is stockpiling huge amounts of spice on Arrakis in a secret facility. He has it smuggled to various people and is making huge profits. He challenges his nephews, Glossu Rabban and Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen, to hurt House Atreides in some way to prove their worthiness to become the next Baron. Rabban obtains a blight that cripples the moonfish industry, one of the main industry of Caladan, making the Count Hasimir Fenring lose all of his money. Feyd chooses to attack through the use of a rogue swordmaster who heads to Caladan and kills Zora, mistaking her for Jessica. The Baron's spice facility has to be scuttled when it is exposed. Reinvar the Magnificent dies after he is severely injured during an escape from an Arai Tleilaxu assassination attempt. He is replaced by a face dancer. Desert War. Patayrat nutru to nutru wundru yeji. January to March. The fief of Arrakis, the planet known as DUNE, is taken from the Harkonnens and given to House Atreides. The Atreides leave Caladan, which comes under the Siridar Absentia on Count Hasimir Fenring, whilst the Atreides rule Arrakis. March. House Harkonnen attack House Atreides in the Siege of Arrakeen with help of the Emperors Sardaukar. Death of Kinnett and Xigo. Peter de Vries kills Dr. Wellington Yue. Duke Leto Atreides kills Peter de Vries and Eakin Nefud. Robin is handed the fief of Arrakis. This marks the second time the Harkonnens have controlled Arrakis, and therefore the spice production of the known universe. He kills 9,000 freemen. April, Duncan Idaho is killed by Sardaukar. Paul and Jessica escape and join the freemen. May to October, Jamis is killed by Paul, and Paul inherits Hera, Jamis' wife. Liet Kynes is killed by a spice blow. Paul becomes known as Muad'Dib and becomes somewhat of a religious leader among the freemen. Jessica Atreides converts the water of life and becomes the next Reverend Mother of the Fremen. Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen turns 17 years old. November, Alia Atreides is born. Birth of Leto Atreides, the second the elder, to Paul Atreides and Chani Kynes, who becomes his concubine and lover. Patayrate Nutre Tornutre Rende Yeji. Rabban kills another 6,000 freemen. Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen has a child with Lady Margot Fenring, wife of Count Hasimir Fenring. Patayrate Nutre Tornutre Mundru Yeji. November. Paul regains control of Arrakis and the spice mining monopoly, which he stops. Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen attempts at killing the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. December. The Spacing Guild lowers its price so that every great house's army heads to Arrakis. Shaddam IV arrives with 5 legions of Sardaukar, the Spacing Guild, and the great houses in the Arrakis airspace to stop Muad'Dib. Thufir Hawat kills himself. The Desert War ends with the Battle of Arrakeen. Leto Atreides II, the Elder, is murdered in a raid on a sietch by the Sardaukar. Glossu Rabban Harkonnen is slain by the Fremen. Alia kills the Baron by means of the Gom Jabbar, causing the title of Baron to pass to Feyd. Paul Atreides, the man behind the mysterious Muad'Dib, kills Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen in Canly. Paul declares that he will marry the Princess Irulan and become Padishah, Emperor of the known universe. The Spacing Guild essentially yield to Paul's control, wishing to preserve the spice content of Arrakis. The Bene Tleilax create a Duncan Idaho Gola named Hate to present to Paul. Stilgar becomes governor of Arrakis and minister of state. Shaddam Corrino IV abdicates and is exiled to Salusa Secundus with his daughters, other than Irulan and Hasimir Fenring. Paul officially becomes emperor and Muad'Dib's jihad begins. 130. Stilgar becomes governor of Arrakis and minister of state. Princess Irulan publishes The Life of Muad'Dib, Volume 1, on the events of the Desert War. It is the first of many books she will write on Paul, and occasionally other things, over the years. Atreides Empire, 10,193 to 13,725 AG. Muad'Dib's Jihad, Patayrate Nutre Tornutre Nange Yeji. Eno joins Muad'Dib's Fedaykin. Paul and Jessica travel back to Caladan, where Jessica is installed as Duchess. Fremen troops capture Kaitine in the Sack of Kaitine. Aliya proclaims that those who are not Muad'Dib's allies are his enemies. Former Emperor Shaddam IV allies with his old friend Hasimir Fenring. 10,196 Aru Yeji. Gurney Halleck captures Galicia for this jihad. Lord Collis is executed by Eno against Gurney's orders, and Gurney executes Eno. 10,198 Yeji. The Great Surrender Ceremony is ordered by Emperor Paul Atreides Muad'Dib as a way of Landsraad nobles to show obeisance. The Tleilaxu Kwisatz Haderach candidate, known as Thalo, attempts to kill through nerve gas the inhabitants of the entire city of Thaliday on Tleilax. His is killed by Marie Fenring. At the ceremony, Swordmaster Whitmore Blood, in an attempt to gain historical fame, plans a well-rehearsed assassination attempt on the Emperor. In the ensuing hunter-seeker melee, many nobles are killed or trampled, including Rugi Corino. Marie Fenring is sent to Arrakis by Hasimir Fenring and his wife, Margot Fenring, to be raised in the imperial court in Arrakeen. The 2-year rebellion of Landsraad nobles, led by Memnon Thorvald, is put to an end as Paul sees their strike against Caladan. In a prescient vision, Paul orders the somewhat guilty guild navigator Beric to strand the rebels in their starships in distant space with no supplies. Paul orders House Atreides starships to destroy and sterilize all life on Epir, homeworld of Memnon Thorvald, second attempt on the Emperor's life. At a celebratory banquet in honor of the Fenrings, little Marie Fenring springs into action and attempts to kill Paul with a needle-wire whip. She's killed by Aliya Atreides. A few minutes later, Hasimir stabs Paul deep through chest and back with the Emperor's blade, but Paul self-heals himself. The Fenrings are allowed to live and are permanently banished to Salusa Secundus. Princess Irulan publishes The Life of Muad'Dib, Volume 2, which covers the story of the War of Assassins of 10,187. 10,200 ஆண்டுகள். Paul sterilizes the populations of 11 more planets. Bronso of Ix begins writing against Emperor Paul Muad'Dib secretly in his employment to combat the myth forming around him. Lady and Duchess Jessica Atreides and Chani visits Salusa Secundus to inspect the terraforming the planet. Bene Gesserit Gilt Castor Stokia visits Margot Fenring, who tries to put Margot into a comatose state, but is killed by Hasimir. The Kizarati attempts to rename Caladan, which declares itself independent of Paul's empire under Gaius Helen Mohiam. Earl Gurney negotiates with the secessionist leaders, who are then poisoned by Jessica. Jessica meets the leadership of the Bene Gesserit on Wallach 9, who try to persuade her to kill her son, the Emperor. 10,202 Yeji. Shaddam Corino, the fourth dice. 131. Sabiha is born. 10,204 Yeji. Bronzo Vernius is thrown into a death cell and interrogated by ruthless Kizara inquisitors, but he escapes and continues his seditious crusade. Last conspiracy against Muad'Dib. 10,205 AG Paul Atreides. At this point, the 82nd Padishah Emperor sits on the golden lion throne while for the past 12 standard years his jihad of Fremen has crossed the known universe and brought a dozen rebellious planets under Paul's rule. Irulan, Edric, Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, and Seidel Conspire to destroy the House of Atreides. Irulan wants to bear the royal heir. Edric wants to break Atreides' monopoly on spice, and Gaius Helen Mohiam wants the Atreides bloodline back under Bene Gesserit control. Seidel reveals that the Tleilaxu have created a Gola called Height that is a copy of Duncan, Idaho. Seidel kills Farak and his son. Paul signs the Tupile Treaty, allowing the Guild to hide the existence of Tupile. The Ixian Confederacy offers submission if imperial taxes are limited. The Battle of Sembu results in a victory for the forces of the Jihad. Muad'Dib's jihad ends. 10,206 AG Battle of Zabulon. The planet joins the Atreides Empire. Gaius Helen Mohiam is imprisoned at Paul's command when Edric comes to Arrakis to create an understanding between Paul and the Spacing Guild. The Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam orders Irulan to kill Chani to prevent an Atreides heir at all costs. Saitale kills Lichna and takes her form. 10,207 AG Othame and Duri give Bijaz to Paul, then are killed by a stone burner which blinds Paul, although he still manages to see through prescience. Chani gives birth to Leto Atreides II and Ghanima Atreides, then dies. Saitale is killed by Paul. Hate remembers his existence as Duncan. Duncan kills Bijaz on Paul's orders. Paul goes into the deep desert. Alia Atreides assumes regency of the throne for the twins. Stilgar executes Edric, Gaius, Helen Mohiam, and Korba. Lady Jessica Atreides and Gurney Halleck return to Arrakis, where Jessica reveals to Irulan and Gurney the truth about Bronso of Ix. Bronso Vernius of Ix is captured and executed. God Emperor's reign. 10,217 AG. Alia Atreides is possessed by the dead Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Jessica and Gurney Halleck return to Arrakis. Leto and Ghanima realize that the terraforming of Arrakis will kill all the sandworms, thus destroying the source of the spice. Paul Atreides, as the preacher, begins railing against the religious government's injustices and the changes among the freemen. He journeys to Salusa Secundus to meet Wensicia Corino's son Faradin, and in return pledges Duncan, Idaho, as an agent of House Corino. Alia attempts to assassinate Jessica, who escapes into the desert with Duncan's help, precipitating a rebellion among the freemen. Leto seeks out the preacher. Everyone else thinks he is dead. He finds him and discovers he is Paul, killing his guide Hassan Tariq. Duncan and Jessica flee to Salusa Secundus, where Jessica begins to mentor Faradin, who seizes power from his mother and allies with the Bene Gesserit. Jessica orders Gurney Halleck to infiltrate a group of Fremen outlaws who capture Leto. On Gurney's suggestion, they force him to undergo the spice trance. Leto escapes and sacrifices his humanity in pursuit of the Golden Path by physically fusing with a school of Sandshroud. He travels across the desert and confronts his father. Stilgar kills the Gola Duncan, Idaho, after he kills Javid and provokes Stilgar. Stilgar kills Buer Argevs. Paul and Leto return to the capital to confront Aaliyah. Upon arriving, Paul is murdered. Aaliyah manages to commit suicide by throwing herself off a high balcony. Leto ascends the imperial throne as Leto II and sets humanity on the golden path, his vision of the future. He takes the Bene Gesserit breeding program into his own hands by interbreeding the genes of Faradin Carino and Ghanima Atreides. His control over the spice forces, peace, and calmness on humanity. Leto orders a new Duncan Idaho Gola from the Tleilaxu to serve him as swordmaster. He will continue to purchase new Duncans to serve him over the next 3,500 years. Faradin gives Leto the Sardaukar. 10,225 AG Hasmir Fenring dies. 10,256 AG Jessica Atreides dies. 10,400 Yeji. As a result of terraformation, the sand trout and sandworms become extinct on Arrakis. C. 10,500 ஆண்டுகள் கழித்தால், spreading their machine-based civilization, the Ixians develop an economic technological federation with a center named Ixian Core. The God Emperor assembles his all-female army of fish speakers. C. 11,000 AG. Through gradual growth, Leto II's empire becomes multi-galactic. 11,228 AG. The Sandblaster Wind is last seen on Arrakis. 11,230 AG. The end of smuggling. 11,700 AG. The Bene Gesserit investigators begin observing the homogenization of family life. 12,335 AG. Leto executes the 9 historians. 12,700 AG. Leto II takes his penultimate bride, the last for more than 1,000 years. 16,000 ஆண்டுகள். With Leto II's silent approval, the Ixians no longer follow the orders of the Butlerian Jihad. They produce computers again, in secret. 14,650 AG, the Ixians reinvent the no-field, unaware of the similar invention of the Richezian Chobin. Leto II's no-chamber is built at Dar es Balat on Arrakis. Leto II extinguishes the Bene Gesserit Mentat school on Wallach 9. C. 14,670 AG. A new Duncan Idaho Gola begins his service to Leto. 14,672 AD. Quintinuis Violet Chenoe joins the Bene Gesserit. 18,725 AG. Death of Radi, Aline, Ulat, Setuse, Inineg, Onemau, Hutier, Memar, and Oala, conspirators against Leto II. The latest Duncan Idaho Gola attempts on Leto's life, assisted by the Ixian ambassador Io Kobat, but is killed. Io Kobat is sent back to Ix after the attempt, replaced by Hui Nori as ambassador. A new Duncan is given to Leto, whose first assignment as Leto's swordsmaster as a test is to kill a rebellious man of House Carino who attempts to bribe Majordomo Moneo Atreides. Duncan assigns the task to a fish speaker. Bene Gesserit sister Quintinius Violet Chenoe dies in the 53rd year of her sisterhood, the cause being ascribed to melange incompatibility during her attempt to achieve the status of Reverend Mother. Reverend Mothers Tertius Eileen Antioch and Marcus Clare Luiseal visit Arrakis. Siona ibn Fuad al-Saifa Atreides and the new Duncan Idaho Gola kill Leto II and gain stewardship of Arrakis. The sand trout, swarming free from Leto's skin, start storing water. They will eventually re-desertify Arrakis. Part of Leto's empire is inherited by his army, the Fish Speakers. Famine, times, and scattering. 13,725 to 15,200 AG. 13,725-14,025 AG. The sandworms, now with animal awareness and a new cunning, reappear on Arrakis. 13,750 AG. The Ixians invent the first generation of navigation machines, breaking the Spacing Guild's monopoly over spaceflight. 14,800 ஆண்டுகள். The Bene Gesserit moves its center to Chapter House. 14,000 AG. Waves of violence strike the Imperium during the famine times. Driven by social unrest, the scattering begins. Traveling with no ships, a part of humanity spreads to enormous spaces in the universe. Throughout the former empire of Leto II, the Old Empire, planetary governments exist in a loose economic federation held together partly by Choam, partly by the Bene Gesserit. Some areas are ruled by the Fish Speaker Council. 14,500 AG. Waves of people move on again and again to still farther, unknown places from the scattering using no ships. The Bene Tleilax finally invents the way of producing the spice melange artificially. As a result of the wealth of spice navigation machines are used less frequently. 14,929 AG. Miles Teg is born. 15,935 AG. Sabine Teg is born. 15,942 AG. Miles Teg is sent to advanced schooling at the Bene Gesserit stronghold on Lampetus, where his mother's assessment of his hymn is confirmed. c. 15,000 AG. The stolen journals are found. 15,002 AG. Cerbal revolt. Miles Teg's enemies bow to him. 152,100 anos depois de Cristo. The lost ones begin to return from the scattering. Among them are those who call themselves the Honored Matres. Sister Dortuja is sent to Buzel for a love affair. 15,210 AG. The group of Honored Matres escaping back to the Old Empire establish base on Gamu. 15,212 AG. The Honored Matres take over control of an increasing number of planets. In the meantime, the loose economic federation kept together by Choam slowly falls apart. 15,213 AG. 12th Duncan Idaho Gola, created for the Bene Gesserit. The Honored Matres begin to return from the scattering, wreaking havoc and destroying anyone in their way, fleeing the outside enemy. 15,218 AG. Sheena Brew is born. 15,225 AG. Having waited for millennia, the Bene Tleilax sets out to conquer humanity and convert it to the great belief of the Tleilaxu. 15,228 AG. Birth of Yorgi, son of Roitiro, on Chapter House. The War of the Bene Gesserit and Honored Matres. 15,229 to 15,240 after Guild. 15,000 229 AG. The Bene Gesserit keep on Gamu, formerly Giedi Prime, is attacked by the Honored Matres. Reverend Mother Lucilla, as well as Miles Tegg and the Duncan Idaho Gola, manage to escape to an ancient Harkonnen no-globe. The Duncan Idaho Gola regains its memories in the no-globe. Paterin kills himself. The Bene Gesserit forces the Honored Matres to destroy all Rakian life. The Battle of Rakis and the planet's destruction. The sandworms of Rakis become extinct, and thus humanity is set free of Leto II's scattered conscience, which kept its future bound. Miles Tegg dies. Murbella of the Honored Matres joins the Bene Gesserit. The Sisterhood, led by Mother Superior Darwi Odrade, rescue a sandworm from Rakis and takes it to Chapter House Planet. The Honored Matres destroy all the planets of the Bene Tleilax. The Bene Gesserit saves and hides the last remaining Tleilaxu master, Seitel. 15,230 AG. Birth of Murbella's and Duncan Idaho's twin daughters, Rinya and Janess. Birth of Miles Tegg's Gola. The sand trout, originating from the rescued sandworm, begin desertification of Chapter House Planet. The Bene Gesserit launches a new scattering, sending out sisters and sand trout to the universe. The Honored Matres conquer Junction and begin destroying the planets of the Bene Gesserit. Ikaz is conquered by the Honored Matres. 15,240 acres. Another battle of Lampadas results in the destruction of the planet. Death of Aleph Burzmali. Lucilla saves memories of Lampadas before dying. Birth of Duncan Idaho's and Murbella's fourth daughter, Gianne. Sandworms appear on Chapter House Planet. Death of Darwi Odrei. Longyo kills Dama and becomes Great Honored Matre. The Bene Gesserit launch the Battle of Gamu and Battle of Junction. Murbella becomes both the new Mother Superior and the Great Honored Matre after killing Logno at the end of the battle. She begins the conversion of the Honored Matres to Bene Gesserit sisters. From the merging of the two groups rise the new sisterhood. Duncan Idaho, Shiana Brug, Seidel, Miles Tegg, a few Bene Gesserit, and a few Jews escape from Chapter House with a no-ship. Kralizek, 15,240 to 15,264 AG. 15,241 AG. The fleeing no-ship is named Ithaca. 15,243 AG. Rinya dies in spice agony. 15,244 AG. Vladimir Harkonnen's Gola is born on Tleilax. 15,246 AG. Paul Atreides' Gola is born on board the Ithaca. 15,247 AG. The Gola of Lady Jessica and Thufir Hawat is born on board the Ithaca. 15,248 AG. Chani's Gola is born on board the Ithaca. 15,249 AG. The Gola of Wellington, Yue, and Seitel is born on board the Ithaca. 15,250 acres. Lietkind's Gola is born on board the Ithaca. 15,251 AG. Stilgar's Gola is born on board the Ithaca. The new sisterhood conquers Buzzle, eliminating a group of rebellious Honored Matres. 15,252 AG, the Gola of Leto II is born on board the Ithaca. 15,253 AG, birth of Paul Atreides Gola Paolo on Tleilax. 15,254 AG, omnious face dancers enable the Ixians to improve the primitive navigation machines. The Ixians think the invention is their own making. The new sisterhood conquers Gamu, eliminating another group of rebellious honored matres. 15,256 AG, birth of Tilwythwaf's Golas on Tleilax. 15,259 AG, the honored matres of Tleilax destroy Riches. Murbella discovers the origins of the honored matres. The new sisterhood conquers Tleilax, eliminating the last group of rebellious honored matres in the old empire. Omnius unsuccessfully tries to entrap the Ithaca to get the Kwisatz Haderach aborted. 15,261 AG, the Gola of Elia Atreides is born on board the Ithaca. 15,262 AG, Sightly dies. At his deathbed, his Gola regains his memories. 15,264 AG, the No ship, the Ithaca, was captured by the thinking machine ruler Omnius and forced down to the surface of the planet. The Gola of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen killed the Gola of Elia Atreides as she exited the Ithaca. A duel to the death took place between the Golas of Paul Atreides, one raised on the Ithaca by the Gola of Duncan, Idaho, and Shiana Brooke, and one raised by Harkonnen on Dan. The duel was to see who was the ultimate Kwisatz Haderach, whom Erasmus, Ominous' assistant, believed was on the Ithaca. The duel occurred in the cathedral. Paolo won the duel, overdosed on the superpotent melange ultra species, and went into a prescient coma. The Oracle of Time appeared in the cathedral with a guild highliner navigator of over 1,000 ships. She then transported Omnius to another dimensional universe, with herself leaving for there as a guardian. Erasmus activated the kill switch on all enhanced face dancers in the universe, killing all of them instantly, including Crone, their leader. Duncan, Idaho was revealed to be the ultimate and final Kwisatz Haderach, who would bring a union and peace between man and machine. Due to his serial Gola lives, the universe had chosen him to be its leader due to his compassion for humanity and care for thinking machines. Erasmus then gave Idaho all of the machine guidance access codes, which enabled Idaho to be the new Evermind. Erasmus then willingly died. Idaho had his former lover and mother of his children, Murbella, brought to Synchrony to witness the new peace between humans and robots. Synchrony became the headquarters of the new Bene Gesserit sisterhood and of the new Bene Tleilaxu race. The thinking machine Armada reached Chapter House and Junction for battle after having ravaged both planets with the Omnius Scourge months earlier. Murbella, mother commander of the new sisterhood, and her daughter, Bashar Janice Idaho, tried to engage the machines in starship battle, but realized that humankind's ships had been sabotaged by face dancers. The Oracle of Time stepped in with her highliner fleet and destroyed the first wave of attacking machine ships. The navigators returned hours later and escorted Murbella to Synchrony to meet with the now super being Duncan, Idaho. Duncan, Idaho created a new order of both man and machine. The dying Tleilaxu master Tilweath Waff saw the decades-dormant sandworms break through the sands of the surface of the planet, showing they were alive. Mother Superior Shiana Brug established the Second Orthodox Sisterhood on Synchrony and created a Gola of Serena Butler. Paul and Chani Kynes retired to Rakis. Sidle reformed the Bene Tleilax. 15,275 AG on Synchrony, Mother Superior Shiana begins training the Gola of Serena Butler in the Orthodox Bene Gesserit ways. 20,217 AG peroration of Gauss Undaud on the 10th anniversary of Ledoku's ascension to the throne. Behind the scenes, discrepancies exist in the original DUNE novel by Frank Herbert as to the birth dates of Paul Atreides, Shaddam Carino IV, and Hasimir Fenring. The first quote in the novel indicates that Paul was born in 10,191, though he is stated as being 15 when House Atreides moves to Arrakis shortly before Aaliyah's birth. The prequel novels G. Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson correct this by moving Shaddam's birth year back 15 years, and thus the birth year of Hasimir Fenring. The appendices in the DUNE novel state that Paul became emperor officially 3 years after the defeat of House Carino in the Battle of Arrakeen. In the Heroes of DUNE novel, Paul of Dune, Paul becomes emperor immediately after Arrakeen, and in 10,196, 3 years later, he is simply addressing the Lance Rod for the first time. Thus, the dates of events in original and expanded DUNE differ by a few years from DUNE Messiah.